The call on the field stands. No hit by pitch. Toronto loses their challenge.
Wow, that was a little bit of a surprise.
No way. If I'm George Springer, I'm getting ejected from this game. I know it's not them, but there's no way. That ball hit George Springer's foot and directionally changed direction.
He just threw him out. He just threw Springer out of the game, and now John Schneider has lost it, and Vladdy is going to get Springer out. Gonzalez might have said something that really tripped the trigger of Springer because he is hot.
A lot of emotion, a lot of anger. In the middle of a 6-1 win for the Toronto Blue Jays. Blair and Barker, Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair, Sportsnet 5-9 in the Fan, and Sportsnet. George Springer, just about the biggest display of emotion I've ever seen from him. Like somebody took away his Uncrustable. Anyways.
Yeah, it's what happens when you've had a bad 15 days and you're having a bad game. It's what happens.
I mean, yeah. He did say afterwards that, yeah, you think I want to be on first base because I was hit by a pitch? No, I want to swing. But no, ejected by Manny Gonzalez as the review did not indicate, at least and not with enough clarity, that he was hit by a pitch in
the ball headed in a different direction is not enough for somebody who can slow it down and see it.
It was enough for me.
This is we talk about the Blue Jays a lot. This has nothing to do with the Blue Jays. This has something to do with use your eyeballs and notice that a ball is headed in one direction. It hits an object and heads in the other direction. It's not a hard thing to figure out. So I think that's why George was, all fired up. And then Manny Gonzalez, just Tommy Tough guy that thinks that you go and spend $125 on a ticket to come and watch him trying to fuel the fire by following George. Again, this gets back to that, and I've said this a bazillion times. I'm not a fan of umpires. We coddle them way too much. It's like a Yariel Rodriguez, right? Just throw him out there, gloves off. We're sort of the same way. Well, I'm not, but most people are. It's a hard job. Oh, they have such a tough job. Yeah, when you see an umpire follow a player just to throw fire or fuel on the fire, to throw him out is exactly what Manny did. This gets back to that. Until baseball actually holds him dudes accountable, forget about what George did. George is having a bad year. I mean, he had a good little spurt there where they made that mechanical adjustment, flipping the barrel straight up and down, letting gravity take over because he's getting up there, right? In age. Yeah, trying to get the best out of a $25 million a guy year. This is sort of the way it looks. This is sort of the way it sounds. I just, again, it's just not a good look for me. It's not why they're never held. Yeah, they're never held accountable. Why would Major League Baseball not go, we saw what you did, Manny. You followed him. He was trying to get away from you, to not have the conversation. He was fired up. He was doing his best to walk away from it. You followed him so you could have big enough rabbit ears to hear it so you could toss him. Why doesn't Major League Baseball say, we saw what you did, Manny? Enough of that. We're going to fine you. We're going to suspend you. We're going to run it across ESPN so everybody knows why we did it because we've had enough of seeing it. When's that happening?
Not anytime soon.
Yes, it won't.
No, I'm with you.
And Manny will continue to do what he does and think he's the coolest umpire on planet Earth, like most of them do.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's what the money's for. It's to take some verbal abuse, but again, George Springer was not directing it in an obvious way towards Manny Gonzalez. In fact, Manny Gonzalez doesn't make the call, obviously, on replay review. It's sent to New York, and that's where they make the call. And that's why I suppose the rule is in place. I think there's a specific rule, right, where if you argue any call that has been adjudicated by replay, it's an immediate ejection. That's why George was kind of understanding in the aftermath. But yeah,
talking to him, not at him. It's that kind of thing, right? And Manny should have known because he's been around long enough to know that a veteran guy who knows he was hit on the foot will have something to say about it when you make that call, and should just have enough field awareness to understand that, let him blow off a little bit of steam. I mean, it's got 2 strikes on him. Chances him getting it's not slim anyway, so you'll see him get out of there sooner than later. So I just don't understand that part of it. Like, I don't understand why players are not allowed to do that, and then an umpire is allowed to basically do and act however he wants to. That's enough. Haven't we had enough of this? No, maybe not. I guess because it'll never change, and they have the hardest job. They obviously call these pitches from center field because Manny is, uncle with that. It's atrocious.
It is atrocious, but I got to say.
I said it out.
It's atrocious. I'm with you. And umpires are easy to punch down on.
Are they?
Yeah, I think so because, they can't defend themselves. But
they can't do better.
Yeah.
Then you could defend yourself anytime you wanted to defend yourself.
They're becoming less and less a part of the game, and they're going to be less and less, maybe not next year, but whenever we get the replay review system when it comes to balls and strikes, it was egregious and horrible, and obviously George Springer wished it hadn't gone that way. But I got to say, I miss the amount of umpire, player, manager interactions, like the going toe-to-toe, showing that type of emotion. After the game, George Springer said, there are kids in the stands who are watching, and I can't get that angry. I don't want my sons to see me get that bad, so I have to be better. I mean, do you? Like, what's wrong with blowing off some steam in that way, especially
I think
as frustrated as he must have been because he was ejected walking the other way?
It's the F words. That's what he's talking about. It's not the getting fired up, the emotion. It's the F word that he used that we could hear in Toronto, and he's in L.A., right? That's what he's talking about. Yeah. It's just that
he was close to Manny Gonzalez's microphone.
He thought it was easy, and you could read his lips, right? I mean, it's what do you say, effing horrible. Like, yeah, it's that I think is what he's talking about. So, look.
Good job by Caleb Joseph to censor himself as well.
There you go. Like, because he's been close enough to an umpire to understand that a lot of the times they don't use enough common sense that other humans should be using. And again, Manny is one of those umpires that thinks that fans only bought the tickets to come and watch him. Mm-hmm. That's a fact. There is no debating that. So, yeah, it's never going to change. I think you're right. Like, they coddle them dudes. They let them dudes do whatever they want to do, whenever they want to do it, however they want to do it. They don't care the optics of the way they're going about doing it. So, yeah, I got nothing. Good for George to come out and say, I shouldn't have done that. I got enough respect for my son, my family, kids that are in the front row that paid that much money to come and watch me play, that they don't need to hear that, and I shouldn't be doing that.
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have two young sons.
He's struggling. He's been struggling for a long time. He understands where he's at in his career. Yeah. He understands that, what other adjustments can he make to not be the offensive player that he's been. Uh-huh. Sometimes when you sort of, it's like the Tim Maces of the world, where as a coaching staff, as a pitching coach, as an organization, you've checked every box. Can't check anymore. We've tried everything we possibly can try. Mm-hmm. George may be somewhere there when it comes to his offensive side of the ball. So, it's just sort of accumulated into, I got hit on the foot. I should deserve to be at first. Yeah. You saw, I felt it. It's an easy thing. Ball was going this way. The ball ended up going that way.
Well, and he told his manager, you got to review that. And of course, the manager, is going to defer to his veteran player on the field who felt the ball hit his foot. He's going to
Gil Kim is the one that called and said, we saw it. It's probably an easy call.
Uh-huh.
Well, he'll get his, yeah. There you go.
He should be allowed to pick up the phone and call New York and yell at them. He should be allowed. Maybe there's a FaceTime situation where he could yell at the people who are actually making that decision.
I will say, I do know what the easy fix is. Treat them like you treat players. Uh-huh. Send them down when they're not any good. Don't give them a job forever. Like, that's an easy fix, which will obviously, I guess there's only like 40 of them because you see the same 40 all the time getting fired up and throwing people out and acting like jackasses. So
they do that in the Korean League, I believe. I believe there's promotions and demotions in season.
The way it should be.
Yeah, you should be held accountable.
The highest level. There is no other level that's higher than the level that they're doing it at. If you're not good at it and you act like that, he made it a point to follow George.
That's what's brutal about it. And
Manny's famous for that. Does it all the time.
It's why George was as upset as he was. For me, though, in the middle of August, a game between the Blue Jays and Angels, I kind of liked it. A little spice.
If I was George, I've been thrown out 10 games ago.
He does an incredible job of, not getting as fired up as that very often. Yeah. Boy, you don't see it. Vlad had to hold him back. Looked like he was going to bust through.
Yeah, again, they're baseball players. It's like that, hold me back. It's suave. But, say your piece, walk away, tell him he's the worst umpire on earth.
Yep. Blue Jays are streaking, though. 2-game winning streak. Got a chance for the sweep in Anaheim tonight against just an abysmal Angels team. It doesn't have a lot going on. Anthony Rendon still looking for his first home run of the season. We thought the magic elixir would be him facing Kevin Gausman, who he has good numbers against. But as Caleb rightly pointed out, it's a different Kevin Gausman that he put those numbers up against than the guy that is currently pitching in the Major Leagues of Baseball. But 7 innings. Shutout ball from Gausman yesterday. 5 strikeouts, which is more than the 2 he had over 8 innings against the Orioles. he's now gone at least 7 in 3 of his last 4.
Yeah.
He's saying after the game that, hey, maybe the results are very good, and they are. There's just no question about it. But I've had better starts this season that haven't gone as well. But, maybe he was due this, honestly, because he's had a couple of years where, boy, the shift has kind of, allowed him to allow more runs than he probably should have. The number of strikeouts that he had, he should have been higher up the list of Cy Young Award contenders. And for him, finally, the worm has turned, it seemed. But, you can't argue with the results. Angels a little different than going 8 against the Orioles, but I don't care how many strikeouts you've got. If you're going 7, 8, and, well, before that, 9 innings, it's that's getting the job done.
It's a big deal for them, right? It's about hard contact with him. I know he talks about that a lot. He didn't give up a ton of that, right? It's the consistency of the velocity, which first couple innings, it wasn't there. Like, that's quite frankly, I mean, the 91, I'm not sure what that is. I mean, Caleb was saying that's a two-seamer. That wasn't two-seamer to me. That thing is a little scary with just how erratic his velocity is, and just seems to me like he just don't know how to get it back, right? It takes a lot of pitches for him to sort of get in the flow of where the release point is, how he gets to his in his finish, which is what he needs. That little thrown that much, you're at the age you're at trying to do this consistently. You're trying to do it with 2 pitches. You need that consistent velocity with your fastball, because sometimes you're not a command guy. You're a stuff guy. So, again, I'm not picky. I don't care how many punch-outs he gets. Again, their defense has shown you it's good enough that if they put the ball in play, they're most of the time out. Mm-hmm. So, it's, again, sometimes you do things because you have to, not because you want to. And I think that's where sort of Kevin said. It's like Jose. It's like Bassett. They're at their point in their career where sometimes things just not going to work, man. Like, it's, the velocity. He used to turn around a lot and look at the number. Mm-hmm. Doesn't do that as much. I think he's just sort of getting to where he's used to. 91 up there. I don't know. Teammates have made fun of him. They do. Like, I have heard him say the velocity, how it's weird, how he can go from like 91 to 97. Like, where's it at? Like, why? How? So, I think he's searching again. Just look at the number, look at the outcome. His job next year is to give the lineup a chance to have a big inning and win games. Mm-hmm. It's about wins. Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah. So if he's giving them that, good.
Yeah, and he has been recently. It's not about wins for this Blue Jays team, but now they have more wins than the defending World Series champion. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. banging out home run number 24 and then going back-to-back belly-to-belly. Spencer Horwitz, 6th homer of the season. Yeah. Kevin, he's played fewer games, has fewer at-bats this season in the majors than he did in AAA Buffalo this season. He's got 2 more home runs, right? This is a guy that when he was a first baseman, you thought, boy, is there enough power there for him to be a first baseman in the major leagues? And then, it changes a little bit when he's a second baseman and maybe doesn't need to hit for 30 home run power. No. But if there's a little more power in there, so much the better. Like, is there a possibility that he's a guy that, maybe is finding his power stroke at the major league level?
Yeah, and I mean this with all due respect, too. If they don't go out and get a cleanup hitter, you might see him hitting some cleanup next year. So
that's a nightmare scenario.
That might be why you're seeing him hook weights to him in batting practice to keep his body from leaking a little bit, to get him a little bit more 60-40. 60-40 means 60% of your weight's on your backside, 40%'s on your front side. And if you guys remember, John, I don't know, maybe a month and a half or 2 months ago when they sent him to AAA and they told him to go and try and hit balls to the pull side in the air with some authority. And the only way you do that's not have your hips leak toward the baseball. You want a little bit more of that sit and spin, 60% of your weight, 40%. That is a lot of the times why even the home run he hit last night is because he's trying to maximize torque, balance, and bat speed. And he's trying to do it in a phone booth, and it's got a little uppercut. That's why you see it with his finish. He's falling across the plate. That's sort of the reason why he's trying to do this. He'll pick his spots where he's trying to do that and where he wants the ball to end up. So, I like the adjustments he's made, and we'll talk to John about this, right?
Yeah. So, John Schneider going to join us after 5 o'clock.
That's awesome. And then he'll give us a couple of reasons why and how, and if he can tap into a little bit more of this. I just like that when he finds something that he needs to work on, he fixes it quick. Yeah. And I think he's capable of doing that, right? It's not going to take away from who he is, which is a line drive guy, sort of left center to right field line. That's not going to take away from that. It's just those moments where if I need to ambush a guy, I need to set a guy up sort of right, don't swing at one thing to get another thing. When I get it, I can do it to the pull side in the air, and I do have enough ump behind it because just my lower half, what it's doing, it's on point, and the bat speed's there enough that it'll go where I want it to go. So, yeah, again, I just hope this is not talking them into letting him hit cleanup next year because you know as well as anybody, khakis up there, boy, are thinking, man, that's something we can check off our list that we don't have to do is get a cleanup hitter.
That's
the only thing I'm hoping that they don't look at this and go, oh, boy, look at that, man. You can close your eyes and picture him hitting 14 homers next year in the cleanup spot. Huh?
No.
Oh, well, not too far removed from Dalton Varsho leading the season off hitting cleanup.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you wanted to see that happen.
No, but that was a guy that had clearly more power than Spencer Horwitz is ever going to have. But, yeah, no, it was a bad decision, and you were early on that at the time. And maybe derailed his first season as a Blue Jay, and he can hit second, I guess, in this lineup where, Joey.
Or Bo Bichette could hit second, and you can go out and get you a legitimate cleanup hitter, and now you got a plethora of 6 through 9 hitters. You can do whatever you want to do. That maybe because you like them being left-handed will add more balance to your lineup and make it longer.
Yeah.
Ain't rocket science.
Yeah, well, one of those left-handed young hitters, Will Wagner, another multi-hit game. He's averaging over 100 miles an hour exit velocity on his hits this season. Finally looked human in that final at bat.
You know what happens is once you start hitting some straight stuff and you start hitting some change-ups, that's straight.
Yep.
Now what do they do over there? Khakis go, well, I see what you can do. We've seen you have enough length in your swing to stay on a change-up, hit it in the big part of the field, have success. Let's see if you can hit the spinner. And now they're going to start bringing in some lefties because they know you can do some things to righties. So there's some unknowns there, right? That's why I said yesterday, right, that I'd gotten 2 hits my first game, and I've been here for 10 years with Jeff.
Yeah.
So, you want to be careful about how exciting you get about a certain guy. So, there's some unknowns here with him, right? Does he have enough, just everything, to be competitive and give himself a chance on velocity, on break, on different quadrants? Can he take a breaking ball from a lefty, punch it the other way like we've seen Horwitz do?
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? I mean, it's good to see that he's had 5 hits in his first couple of games, which is nothing wrong with that. But
better than the alternative.
Baseball hitting that thing that's round with a round thing is not the easiest thing to do. And it's never been, there's never been smarter people behind the scenes trying to run these things.
Be interested to see what the lineup looks like tonight against the lefty. If we see both Spencer Horwitz and Will Wagner in
That's
there.
fair. That's a fair point.
I mean, if David Schneider is still here, you would figure.
Fingers crossed that they do not have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. playing third to get the matchup that they want in there. Like, that's.
Maybe a day off for Joey Loperfido, but he's riding a 1-game hitting streak now. Snaps the 0 for 24. Said he felt a tremendous amount of relief. Yeah.
Coming to a new team, and basically you look like you've never held a bat in your hand before. Like, it's. Good for him. Like, I've been there. Everybody that's ever tried to hit a baseball at the highest level's been there. It's just harder going through it and being there when you've been traded to a different team. And you see what's all going on around you, and you see what the opportunity could be, right? That you could be the everyday left fielder next year.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that that's what it should be, but they got a lot of heavy lifting to do. And if they can figure out what he can do well, then maybe he could be a part of the mix when it comes to who's playing left field. And for him to get that hit, it's still fanny out. It still is sort of the direction of his lower half, cutting off, and he's a one-sided guy. Does he have enough bat speed and enough top hand? That's a lot of top hand, right? The Tuckers and the Altuves of the world have tremendous sort of, that's your steering wheel, is your top hand. Most guys' steering wheel are their bottom hand. Wherever your bottom hand goes, your top hand's going to follow unless you cut yourself off with your lower half. Now it's sort of like that scissor look. Right, your foot goes this way, your hand's got to go this way. That means your top hand is no longer following your bottom hand. It is sort of leading and directing where the barrel should end up. Man, you gotta be some kind of strong and on point, and because you don't have as much direction, right? That means your barrel is not in the zone long. That means you got to be really on point with point of contact, and everything's got to sort of be mastered, which is what Tucker and Altuve do. So. There's a lot to work out there. Hopefully he works it out because he's athletic. You can see the talent.
Sure, he's got speed. He can play some defense.
He's got power, which you can't teach that.
Sure.
It's just How does 19 hitting coaches tap into that and not overthink it and just not have him whatever he went before?
0 for 24.
Before,
felt like 24 strikeouts.
And we'll talk to John about this too, about performance. And, I'm sure they've tweaked some things that have sort of getting him thinking about the tweaks instead of seeing ball, hitting ball. I mean, it's still that. I mean, even though it's 2024 and khakis are running all over the place, it still is see ball, hit ball.
Yeah.
There is a little bit more that can go into that. But it is still, you got to see the ball out of the guy's hand. You got to get athletic as soon as I can. Man, it rhymed.
Yeah.
And hopefully your athleticism will take over. So, hopefully.
Yeah. Good for Joey as he ends that 0 for 24, which is ugly. And a little
it's off a lefty too, I believe,
yes,
right? So that's
was
a good thing also. Yeah.
Again, I'd be surprised if he's in the lineup tonight against the lefty. But yeah, I'd like to see Will Wagner and Spencer Horwitz back in there. But like you said, does that mean Vlad at third base? I don't know. Are we done with that? Who knows?
I would be if I was Vladdy.
Yeah. Speaking of lefties,
want me to play third?
Yeah.
You got to pay me. Bro.
Yeah, and that's coming whether he plays third or not. Somebody's going to pay him. We'll see if it's the Blue Jays. Speaking of lefties, Yusei Kikuchi made his third start as a Houston Astro yesterday. Okay, and hey, Will Wagner, future of the franchise, okay? He's been good. He's been really good. We haven't seen Jake Bloss yet, Joey Loperfido. Work in progress, let's say.
Yeah, that's fair.
But as angry as Astros fans might have been at the outset, I think the first three starts of Yusei Kikuchi's Houston Astros career has kind of satiated them a little bit. 5 2/3 yesterday, 1 earned run, 5 punch-outs. He's now got an ERA of 2.70 in 3 starts with the Astros. Now, not everybody's the 27 Yankees that he's facing, but he's got 24 strikeouts in 16 2/3. So this is immediately following 11 starts with the Blue Jays. And listen, the Blue Jays have resurrected him after that first season, and Pete Walker is the miracle worker, right?
Yeah.
But this season, in 11 starts prior to being a Houston Astro, he had an ERA of like 6.5 for the Toronto Blue Jays. Something has changed for him in Houston, and whatever they told him, like, immediately he's been outstanding. He's been the best version of himself.
Yeah, he's a grip it and rip it guy. He's more of a thrower than a pitcher, right? Because he's a power left-handed thrower. You sort of solidify that and don't get him to try and finesse things, right? He's got that slow breaking ball. What's that? You got to have good feel for that, right? You got to have a good mechanical finish with that. It's not a grip it and rip it pitch. It's more of a, I got to really feel it coming off my fingers. It's got to have good snap. If you can hear that on the radio, like, you got to really get it out there to do that. There's a lot of things go into that. You say you don't want doing a lot of thinking. You just want him to grip it and rip it. What do the Astros do? Boy, I can't wait to get him in my underground city to figure that out, because we want results right away. We don't want him next year because he may not be here. Yeah. So we traded away 3 projects. We brought in a guy that if we just sort of say, stop throwing so many breaking balls, throw more changeups and grip that slider and throw it and just be in the ballpark with where the catcher's setting up with your high-octane velocity and you're left-handed, that adds a little deception. I mean, how many left-handed throwers throw that hard? Not many. So,
not many.
Yeah. So you already got that sort of element of surprise, and now you're bringing him where the heart rate is always in every start up, which will add the extra little gear and the extra little umph. And if you can keep him out of the middle of the zone consistently, that will keep it in the yard. It sort of looks like that. So, the Astros know what they're doing. There's a reason why they got rid of what they got rid of to get what they got, right? They're trying to win a World Series. It ain't about developing next year or the year after that. It's about right now and what a guy can give you. And they saw a lefty that throws really, really, really hard that could tweak and give them a chance to at least win the division. And then once you get in the playoffs, it sort of gloves off. You want to put him in the pen and have him thrown close to 100 miles an hour, you can do that too. It's almost genius. Sometimes you might want to leave the genius things to the people that win all the time. And the Astros are one of them teams.
Yep, and they've done this a couple of times. I mean, they turned Garrett Cole into Garrett Cole. They've now won 7 straight as they're atop the AL West. And the Mariners, despite having the lowest ERA in all of baseball, boy, they're in danger of missing the playoffs yet again. I guess Justin Turner, not enough there to change their
39.
fortunes. Yeah, Randy Arozarena at this stage in his career.
Leads their team in hits, I think, since the trade deadline.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a good thing.
Yeah.
With who they got and what they expected from the guys they already had. Like, You're just bringing in some guys that are trying to help out and not carry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Rosarena's having a down year. You're asking him to do things right now maybe he's not capable of doing. So, yeah, hopefully they don't waste it. They get in the dance.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be a handful.
With that pitching?
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
That Kirby's filthy, dude.
Yep.
Will give you nightmares if you're hitting against that. Oh, man, that changeup. You got Bugs Bunny changeup. You got power elevated. You got really tall dudes. So if you're hitting, you got to look almost up, which will change and make it tougher to lay off the elevated fastball. Like, they got a bunch of things in different ways that they can punch at you and get you out. So, yeah, I hope they get in because it'll be fun to watch them, say, go on the road and have to face a good team like the Astros, like the Yankees, like
No, they are a team. If they get a chip in a chair, like they could go all the way. I mean,
absolutely.
Especially after a year where an 84-win Diamondbacks team did that in the National League.
Get in.
When we come back, we'll talk to somebody who knows the Mariners very well, former Mariner, Bret Boone, 3-time All-Star, host of the Bret Boone podcast, joins us next as Blair and Barker continues. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair, Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Blair and Barker, Sportsnet 590 The Fan, Sportsnet. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair. Blue Jays looking at the sweep tonight in Anaheim against the Angels. Yeah, continue to climb the American League standings. I mean, they do. They got the Tigers in their sights. Maybe hurting their ping pong placement when it comes to the draft lottery, which now exists in Major League Baseball. But yeah, they're picking up some victories. George Springer, though, he was a victim of some overzealous umpiring yesterday. How many times were you ejected in your minor league career? Were you ever ejected in the major leagues?
At least 10. I don't think so. I was never good enough big leaguer I wanted to play, so getting thrown out was never an option for me at the big league level. With the minor leagues, yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
I've had some good, quiet conversations with good old Blues, boy. Yeah, buddy.
Did that still exist in the minor leagues where guys were trying to make it about themselves? Because it's one thing when you're on national TV at the major league level, but in the minor leagues, those guys were trying to make it about themselves?
It's like they go to camp for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. It's worse down there.
Oh, okay. That's how you get noticed?
Yeah. Well, you're not being noticed, so you can do whatever you want to do. If you want to act like that, you can act however you want to act.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk to Bret Boone, 3-time All-Star, host of the Bret Boone podcast, and brother of a guy who has 39 career ejections, Aaron Boone. How's it going, Bret?
What's going on, guys?
I know you must have seen the George Springer ejection yesterday, getting his money's worth after he was ejected. He said he regrets it. He wished he hadn't lost his cool.
He's a nice guy.
I don't know. I do miss the days where there was a little more tete-a-tete between managers and umpires and players and managers. Where do you stand on the manager-player argument?
Oh, I like it. I was one of probably my favorite skipper, Lou Piniella. He's kind of one of the pioneers. So, this game is so hard, and it's 162 games, and it breaks up the monotony. So sometimes we'd be playing 12, 13, 14 in a row, and then Lou would give us a little break, give us a little entertainment. So I like it. I like when the managers get out there and get after it. Occasionally, as a player, you get caught up. You're just passionate about what you do. Springer yesterday, he doesn't seem the confrontational type of guy. But I'll tell you, in the day and age of this instant replay, there's no more cat and mouse. There's no more games. I mean, I used to, if I was struggling or I was down in the count 0-2, and that ball came anywhere close to me, man, I'm going into theatrical mode, and I got to find a way to get to first. I'll start off with an 0-0 count my next at bat. In today's game, you really can't get away with that. So the fact that he was that upset, and maybe the replay didn't show it, he must have. As a player, you can feel it. You can feel it if it hits your shoestring or if it hits a button on your shirt. So, it's something. Springer's, they've been frustrated for not only this year, but for the last few. Springer signed that big deal with the Toronto Blue Jays, and it really hasn't gone as it was scripted. So it's just frustration. A long season, underachieving again this year in last place, and stuff like that happens. I've been there. Believe me, I've been on plenty of winning teams, but I've been on some teams that had tough years, and that's what Toronto's going through.
Yeah, it's especially hard, too, when you know you're right, and then the umpire yanks his mask off and starts walking towards you for no reason, right? That sort of just throws a little fuel on the fire. And Manny, again, I've been in the box with Manny as an umpire. He thinks every fan bought a ticket to come watch him. It's a fact. So, you add that to the mix and you're struggling, like you mentioned. You know what? Talk about the Yankees and your brother a little bit. And Jazz Chisholm obviously is hurt and going to be out a little while. How do the Yankees get through this? Like, do they have enough muscle? Because I think this time of the year you need a little, my muscle against yours, we got enough. We'll work through this. We'll fight through it. We'll muscle through it. You think the Yankees got enough of that to get through this?
Well, I'll tell you, you've got two arguably the best offensive players in the game. You have the best player in the game right now from an offensive perspective, and that's Aaron Judge. And I don't think, the closest thing I can see to that maybe is Ohtani. And then Soto's right in the mix. But Aaron Judge is clearly the best player in baseball. So you got him. You got Juan Soto, who's having an MVP caliber year, if not for Judge. Chisholm was a huge, I think they even got more than they bargained for when they got Chisholm. He's an emotional guy. He's got a big personality. But to come over, he had 7 home runs for him in 3 weeks. And all of a sudden to see something like this, the UCL, and he's going on the IL. Yeah, that's definitely a blow to them. But I look at this lineup. Underachieving guys. You haven't had Rizzo in the lineup for a long time. Yeah, he's getting a little bit older. He's a veteran guy. He's important as a clubhouse guy there. And when you're hurt and when you're not on the roster, the active roster, it doesn't matter who you are or how much of an influence you are. You're almost invisible when it comes to that. So getting him back should be a little boost for him. Torres hasn't had the year. Verdugo coming over from Boston hasn't. But the key to that team, and I've talked about it a lot lately, is Giancarlo Stanton and a productive Giancarlo Stanton to hit behind Soto and Aaron Judge. Because if you don't have him, you got Soto and Judge, and you can kind of ping pong through the rest of the lineup. With Stanton there in the middle of that lineup as a big presence, I think it makes all the difference in the world for the Yankees. You look at the rotation. Cole's still kind of in spring training, but he'll be Cole when it's all said and done. Stroman, Rodon, Heel, and Nestor. That's a formidable starting rotation. Then you go to the bullpen. They're one of the top bullpens in the AL. Holmes has been a little bit. He's had a little bit drama lately, but the bottom line is getting it done and getting a W on the board. I think this team's going to be fine. They've been through a rough stretch. They got through that. They're still one of the top teams in baseball. And I think down the stretch, I think Baltimore and the Yankees, who have been kind of mirroring themselves all year, I think it's going to go down to the wire. One's going to win, and one's going to get a seat at the table to go to the postseason. I think in today's game, it's not as important as it used to be. Winning that division, just getting a seat at the table and starting that postseason and starting it healthy. That's to me what I'm finding is the healthiest team at the right time has a little bit of advantage because there's so many injuries in today's game.
Yeah, the biggest decision that Aaron may have to make is how he sort of flip-flops Soto and Judge. How do you think the best way for him to do that is, and not sort of the way John Schneider with the Blue Jays basically said, forget that. He ain't posterizing me. He's going to first base. I'm not even going to give him a chance. Is there a perfect way, or maybe you just mentioned it with Stanton? It determines a lot on how he's doing.
Well, I'll tell you, right now, for most of the year, it's been Soto in front of Judge. And I've heard they're kind of fiddling with that. I think that's a conversation that Aaron has with Soto and Judge. And because what you want to do, especially with one of your big producers, the middle of the lineup guys, and I've always been a proponent of this. It's not – everybody isn't treated equally. I want my stars to be happy. I want them skipping to the ballpark and having a good frame of mind and wanting to come and wanting to play and enjoy themselves. And sometimes where you hit in the lineup is a part of that. So I think that's a conversation Aaron has. Hey, maybe it'd be better if Soto hit behind Judge to give him that left-handed protection versus Stanton, who's righty. And more times than not, you're going to put Judge on when you got another right-hander on deck. Stanton's a little easier to be pitched to at this stage. So maybe having a Soto behind him. Soto doesn't mind taking his walks. He's got to control the strike zone as good as anybody in the game. And that might be an option as long as Judge and Soto are happy with that. If you think Juan say, hey, I don't mind, I just want to win, then do that. So you might see that going forward. But all in all, you got to get a little bit more production out of it. DJ Verdugo, who really is the guy for me, that needs to be a little more productive in that lineup. Torres has been under, they expected more out of Torres. So disappointing most of the spots. Volpe got off to a great start. He's been decent, still a young player. I think he's going to have a bright future, but it really comes down to Judge, Soto, and Stanton. And the problem is with the Yankees.
Yeah.
Is they've been subject to that injury bug. And man, I it's almost like you want to put Stanton in bubble wrap and move him around life, because you can't afford for him to be injured anymore.
That's it.
Yeah. And Judge neither, who's had his fair share of injuries throughout his
Better
career.
lately.
Yeah.
3 home runs from Juan Soto yesterday. It's stupid. I mean, this is a guy who already turned down a $400 million extension from the Washington Nationals, and that seems smart now, considering what he's doing in his walk here.
Right, a year ago when he was in San Diego, it didn't look very smart, but it's looking pretty brilliant right now.
It is. So he's going to get at least that. Aaron Judge is making $40 million a year. You mentioned it. You got to treat these stars differently. Do you see any issue with Juan Soto in free agency and earning more money than the guy who's going to win the American League MVP this season, Aaron Judge?
I don't think so at all. I think Aaron Judge came around at the right time. I think Derek Jeter was the captain of that team for a long time, and it went beyond the stats. It's the way he handled himself. He was kind of the spokesperson for that Yankees teams of the 90s, early 2000s, and obviously he did an unbelievable job. I couldn't imagine a better guy to pass that baton to than an Aaron Judge. He's a pro at heart, and he doesn't really care. He got his money, and whatever Juan Soto makes, I'm sure he's going to be happy for Juan Soto. So I don't see that being an issue if he were to sign a contract and come back with the New York Yankees. I don't see a problem at all.
Okay, Seattle's one of those teams where you just think if they just get in, right, with the rotation that they have, especially them three behemoths, they get in, they're going to cause a lot of havoc. It's just getting in. Offensively, you think last time you were on this show, right, it's about the punch-outs. Weren't putting enough balls in play. If you don't do that right, you just don't have enough opportunities to score enough runs. How do they do this? Like, how do they make it through it to at least just get in the dance?
Well, I think Seattle, when you talk about 3 horses, I think they got 5 horses.
Wow,
it goes down to Wu and Miller. And right now, Wu might be the best pitcher in that rotation. You could, on any given day, you could make Castillo the 5th starter, and you wouldn't miss a beat. I think watching these guys from Gilbert to Kirby to Castillo to Wu to Miller, these are 5 legitimate horses. The problem's been the offense. They went out at the trading deadline. They got a Rosarina, who's got a track record in the postseason, probably having his worst year as a pro, but as of recently has started to swing the bat. I think more than anything, these are mental moves, I think, for the Seattle Mariners. There wasn't that big blockbuster at the trade deadline. There wasn't the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. that was available. So I think they went out and they did the best they could. I think a Rosarina will challenge Julio Rodriguez, the young star of the Seattle Mariners that's not having a very good year, just because of the big personality. And I think that, Julio's got that big personality. It'll be a challenge from a Rosarina. I think that's a net positive. And I look at Justin Turner, who's had a ton of success with the LA Dodgers, was over there in Toronto, and he's just that calm head in the room. He's 39 years old. He's kind of a J.D. Martinez type, well-respected throughout the league. And from my time when I played, he's kind of an Edgar Martinez type figure, just the grandpa in the room that the young kids can really learn from him. I think he really brings a calming and a mature presence to that clubhouse, which is needed. And then the sneaky move is getting Garcia, once again, from the Toronto Blue Jays. To really patch up that bullpen that's been missing. Matt Brash, who was one of their young phenoms, late inning, big matchup guys. He went down with Tommy John this year. Getting Garcia was a sneaky move for me. I think the Mariners are ready to go, but as you said, they got to get a seat at the table. And I don't think this year the American League West is going to have a representation in the wild card. I think it's going to be whoever wins the division. That's all the only team that's going to go from that division. And Houston's playing better right now. I think now it's a 1.5 game gap, but you got to get in. So, as long as you get a seat at the table, they've got as good a chance as any, but we'll see. It's going to be an interesting 6 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, the Mariners lead all of baseball in ERA, and to not be in a playoff spot right now, they are a 1.5 games back of the Astros, as you mentioned, in the AL West. Astros coming on strong though. 7 straight wins for them. Brett, it does feel like maybe the Mariners missed their chance to really stomp out the Astros, keep them behind them. I mean, I don't know if the Astros were ever going to give up on the season, considering their pedigree, but this is a team that's been there. They've had a lot of postseason success. It feels like this is their time where they start taking off and looking like that team that's won a couple of World Series in the last decade.
I think you're right. I mean, 2 months in, they were kind of dead and buried. And you were thinking, oh, this is finally when that dominance of that division ends. They as you mentioned, they just won 7 straight. You look at that rotation, and you got Valdez, you got Brown having a really good year, Blanco, and you've had Verlander, who I think's going out for a second rehab assignment.
Yep.
You know, Verlander's kind of he's taunting with Father Time. You know, he's not pitching like a 40, 41-year-old guy, and you know when he gets it right, he's always a factor in the postseason. He's about to come back. They've missed Kyle Tucker, who was an MVP candidate before he went down in the IL with that deep bone bruise. He's missed more time than they expected, but he's going to be back shortly. So they've been doing all this kind of with some of their big boys on the IL, and they're all coming back right at the right time. It's going to be Seattle's going to have their work cut out. But if I look at it just on paper, and I've always been a pitching guy versus offense, because if you wheel out a number one every night, you always give your team a chance to win, and that's what I see with this Seattle Mariner team. But you're right, Houston's coming, and they've definitely got the experience, and they're not going to panic. They're going to be as poised as anybody, and that lineup is still as long as any lineup in the game right now, from Alvarez to Bregman, Altuve, Pena, Diaz, the young catcher. And now with Tucker coming back, they're going to be a tough opponent. But Seattle's got the pitching to do it. It's whether they can hit enough and produce enough to stay with Houston and eventually take them over. Because once again, I don't think a wild card's coming out of this division.
I think you're right. Yeah, and it's going to be a dogfight all the way to the end. Brett, this was great.
Awesome.
Thanks for doing this.
Thanks,
Again,
Brett.
the podcast is the Bret Boone Podcast. Thanks for doing this.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
There's Bret Boone, 3-time All-Star. That's tough. It's one thing to waste a pitching season like the Blue Jays did last year. Oh, they only won 89 games, and the offense wasn't good enough, and they didn't want to play. They got into the playoffs.
Sure.
The Mariners have, at this moment, the best pitching staff and all. Bret Boone just said, like, Luis Castillo could be their 5th starter.
Yeah.
And they might miss the playoffs. Like, you want to talk about a wasted season. That's what we could be looking at here in Seattle. Now, it's only a game and a half, and they do have another series to go against the Astros. By the way, second last series of the season between those two teams. Yankees and Orioles, also second last series of the season. One more series remaining between those two teams. So some great pennant races.
Hopefully it
down the
matters.
stretch.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what a waste. If you're a Mariners fan, you must be just punching your
Well,
TV
I mean,
every night.
they're still in it, right? And you got something to watch every day by the stuff that they're running out there.
They had an
Dudes don't stand on the
average
mound.
offense, though. They'd have a 5-game lead in that division.
Yeah, it just goes to show you, right, that you needed all parts of your game have to be, just at least carrying the load some part of the season, right? It's like the Blue Jays. You can ask 3 guys in your rotation to do it for some of the time. You need your offense to carry your team a little bit of the season anyway. And it's just, I think those sort of 2 teams stand out to you where it's just so you try and be one-sided going into the offseason, into the season. It's just a lot to ask, right?
Yeah.
Like offenses can carry your team, I think, a little bit easier than a pitching staff can just by the way it's constructed, and getting a guy running out there giving you a quality start every time out. It's a lot to ask. So, yeah, I like it that there's a lot of teams in the mix, right? It's just not one team.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you can make the argument that the Astros is the best team in the American League, which we were talking about the Guardians 2 weeks ago. We talked about the Yankees. We have said the Mariners by the way they were pitching and the lead that they had in the West. Like
any of those teams can come out of the American
absolutely.
League.
So, you can throw the Twins in there with the depth of the lineup that they have and the couple of guys that they got in the rotation and the pen that they can run out there now with Adams. And, you got some guys that you can throw out there. So it's, baseball, I think, is in a good place. It's just getting the right teams that matter the most in the biggest games. And hopefully that happens.
Blue Jays will be watching from afar.
Be nice.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. They were in the playoffs last year, and they were talking about chipping a chair, 89 wins.
The beauty of the Blue Jays now is you know what you need to fix. It's just the fact that you go, well, really, it
Not
is.
to you. No.
It is a lot. It is a lot when it comes to how much money you may have to spend.
Yeah.
But it's about money and getting the right couple of names in here. You do that walking through the front door in spring training,
Yeah.
you're cooking with gravy, boy.
How about Juan Soto? He's out there.
I mean, there's been some rumblings that you could, but
if
again,
you have $700 million, and I know it's different, it's different. But I would argue that Juan Soto, the baseball player, and I know Shohei's ramping up the throwing. He's going to be throwing again apparently next season. We'll see.
You know what? It would be easier to do if you want to give him 500. Let Vladdy walk. That's the easy part of this. Yeah, you are. You're having to sign Soto, and then you could trade Vladdy at the break to do whatever you wanted to do because you got Soto. Yeah, so you could kill a couple birds with one stone. You ain't paying them both. You ain't doing that. So if you want one or the other, you ain't getting both of them. That's not the way this is going to work.
I find it hard to believe that they're going toe-to-toe with the Yankees and maybe the Mets, like getting in on that bidding process for a guy who's having the best year of his entire career. He's going to be 26 years old as a free agent. Are you kidding me? You know, he goes to the Bronx. It's one thing to do what he did in Washington. It's another thing to do what he did in San Diego. It's another to go to the Bronx. And I get it, that hitter's ballpark. But to do what he's doing in his walk here next to the MVP, I guess he's not going to get $700 million, but it's going to be closer than people thought.
Well, I think if you want to play out your career for a little while, you could do worse by doing it around Judge.
Yeah.
Again, it's about the money.
Oh.
If you were him, that's exactly what it would be about. But it would be an easier sale coming to the ballpark every day, knowing that you could get hit either in front or behind Judge instead of who, what, when with the Mets.
Yeah.
Lindor? Okay, if that's what you want to do. The Polar Bears even coming back?
Right.
Like,
I don't know.
There's a lot of unknowns in that other New York team, and there ain't with that team you're playing with now.
I think you
said
it.
And that little short porch and right's not too shabby to aim at it on a consistent basis either.
At last check, like Scott Boras is his agent, so like I don't think anything comes before the dollar figure at the end of the day. And I think
Scott's coming off a bad offseason, too.
He is.
I'm not saying that he's going to take a discount, but, you know, maybe the player's got a little bigger voice than he's had in the past. Maybe that's the case, too. Sotos of the world don't walk in the door every day. And, you know, if you got a certain number for your Soto and mine and that team comes to that number and it's not the number that your agent likes, well, hey, your agent will get over it. He works for you. It ain't the other way around.
And was that number approached if there were discussions already during the season? We've heard a couple of different things from the Yankees.
And I still think the people that I've talked to, it's a thing. The number that's going to be bigger than it is with the captain and the guy that pitches, who's the number one, it's a thing. Yeah. It's a thing.
Okay, not according to Bret Boone.
Yeah, he would know who his family member is.
Well, like I said, if you don't want to go above $40 million for Juan Soto, then you ain't getting no Juan Soto. Unless you're doing,
that's fair too.
Yeah, like, okay, that's all well and good. And I'm sure Aaron Judge would like to be the highest paid player. He'd also like to have Juan Soto on his baseball team. So I could see
he'd like to be 26 too, going to free agents.
Sure, and that's his fault that he only arrived at the major leagues at 26 and only became like Aaron Judge when he was 27. Anyways, Juan Soto is worth whatever he ends up getting paid.
Is he that?
In free agents? I mean, not in the real world dollars and in baseball dollars.
He won't go to that team and be the best defender they got. He won't go to that team and be the best base runner they got. He'll go to that team and be the best hitter they got. Yeah. Is that worth $500 million to you? That's what you got to ask yourself.
Yeah, to me, like
$500 million guy got to be my best everywhere. Wow. Everywhere.
Unless he
ain't it. So.
Unless you're hitting 40 home runs and you're walking 150 times
pay
and
that and get 2 or 3 dudes to add up to 40 homers. I'm not saying I wouldn't make a run at it if I got the big bank account, but you're telling me he's got to be best at all that to get a number that starts with 5.
I think he's pretty darn
Ohtani's the best
good
pitcher and hitter on your team. That's different.
Okay. Aaron Judge is a pretty good defender, but he's not the best center fielder in baseball. But anyways. All right. When we come back, we'll talk to the manager. John Schneider is the Blue Jays looking for the sweep in Anaheim tonight. This is Blair and Barker. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair. Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Blair and Barker, Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair. Blue Jays looking for the sweep of the Los Angeles Angels in Anaheim tonight as Jose Barrios getting the start against the lefty Tyler Anderson. And it's not all about the wins and losses anymore for this Blue Jays team, but boy, must be a whole lot more fun winning than losing. All right, let's go down to the field in Anaheim and talk to John Schneider, manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. How's it going, John?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me. I haven't talked to you all, so thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this, John. Before we get into the way your team's playing right now, which is very well, first 2 games of the series, Bo Bichette and Jordan Romano were in Toronto last series. Do you have an update on them, and how important do you think it is to get at least Bo Bichette back into the lineup and on the field before the end of the season?
Yeah, they're both doing well back in Florida, both of them. Bo just started doing some baseball activity yesterday down there. He's throwing, did some hitting in the cage, and is feeling good. I think getting him back will be great. Obviously whenever that time is right, for him physically, we're looking forward to having him back. And Jordy is down in Florida, hasn't started throwing yet, but hopefully it's pretty soon. And he's continuing to feel good every single day. But I think, most likely we'll see Bo before we see Jordan.
Will Wagner only 2 hits yesterday, so he's regressing. He did not become the only Blue Jay in franchise history to end up with 6 hits in his first 2 games. 5 will have to do for him. He's obviously been unreal. Will Wagner has in his brief major league career. He's played some third base in Buffalo. Spencer Horwitz has obviously had a really good season as well. Will we see Will Wagner maybe at some third base at the major leagues?
I think some, yeah. I think right now we're kind of looking at where each person, their best spot is and how they kind of complement what we have and what we're going to continue to have here positionally. So far, like what we see at second, I think he's played 1 or 2 games in Buffalo for us at third. And he'll probably get a handful of games over there, while he's here. But want to try to be pretty consistent with him at second. And then, that kind of pushes Spence over back to first and DH and things like that. But I think you'll see Will primarily at second.
John, is Will in the game tonight against the lefty?
He's not tonight. Nope. It was, I know, I'll probably catch a lot of crap for it,
Yeah.
But that was kind of the plan. We're still kind of building him up. He's had, some on and off knee stuff too that he's had with Houston, and want to just give him a chance to catch his breath against a tough lefty. We got an off day tomorrow, and kind of keep going. It's been a whirlwind couple of weeks for him, but if he had 3 hits his first night and 2 yesterday, if you need him to pinch hit, he's due for 1, right? So in a big spot, he's probably guaranteed hit today.
Speaking of catching breath, Joey Loperfido, what are you seeing that you've liked, and what would you like to see him do a little bit better?
But Joey, man, he's so talented. There's a lot that we like. There's a lot that we like from his athleticism, his bat speed, his power potential. Obviously not the start that he wanted to get off to here with us. And what he's working on, the things that he's talking about every day is just kind of controlling his move forward, recognize pitches a little bit better, help him lay off the pitches at the top of the zone, obviously, and make a little bit more contact. So we're aware of that. He's aware of it. And I think it's kind of just, the goal is to kind of take small bites out of that each and every day and just make sure that he's not getting kind of swallowed up by everything, which he's not. He's got a great head on his shoulders. He's taken it as well as you can take it. I was really happy that he ended his night with a knock and an RBI yesterday. But it's all the talent's there. It's just kind of just calming down that initial move, staying back a little bit, and hopefully controlling the zone a little bit better.
Is he playing against the lefty tonight?
Joey's not playing tonight. Nope.
Okay.
I
had to ask. He got a hit off a lefty last night.
I know, man. And I think going forward, these guys are, we're not going to straight platoon them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This isn't going to be. We want to see what these guys can do. And I think tonight, we've got a pretty specific plan with Joey going forward. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I think today is kind of a good work day for him. And really start working on the things, or continue to work on the things that he's been chipping away at. And again, these guys are going to play. You know what I mean? I know we're facing a couple lefties in Chicago. These guys, they'll play. So we're trying to juggle everyone that we do have on the roster right now a little bit.
Some good results for Kevin Gausman recently, and yesterday included, going 7. He's gone at least 7 in 3 of his last 4 outings. Strikeout numbers have been a little bit down for the American League leader in strikeouts a year ago, John. Why is that?
Kind of a weird season for Kev. The last 4 or 5 have been really good. And I think, you can go all the way back to spring training where it was kind of a rough buildup for him and didn't really have a normal spring training. And that probably led to, some of his early season struggles. Kev's evolving as a pitcher a little bit. You know, he's throwing a sinker. He's getting some more early contact, and teams are very, very aggressive against him to try to avoid getting to his split, which is just a nasty pitch. So there's been a lot of early contact, and on the flip side, I think that's why you've seen him get really deep into games, albeit without the number of strikeouts he had last year. So it's just kind of weird. Different years are different, and I think a guy like him, teams are obviously game planning very specifically for him, and that's kind of why the strikeouts are down.
John, what do you think Spencer can do to tap into some more consistent power?
I think it's just giving it a shot when the situation presents itself. I mean, he's said that, he's verbalized that. He's got a good approach. He puts together an at-bat every single time, and he makes a lot of contact. So I think the next step for a hitter, and you kind of know this, Kev, is you're sitting 2-0, 1-0, 3-1. You want to let it eat a little bit. And I think that he is understanding that and learning how to do that more consistently. So I think that's basically it. It's not just, hey, I'm going to put the ball hard in play. It's like, okay, I'm really going to try to impact the ball on certain counts.
Big opportunity here for Alejandro Kirk with Danny Jansen traded before the deadline to assert himself as the team's number one catcher. Where have you seen him from a conditioning standpoint and trying to evaluate whether he can handle the full-time load next year?
So far, so good. He's catching a lot. He's back in there tonight catching Hosey. It's an opportunity for him to really kind of take it and run with it, and he understands that. He gets that. I think he's done a great job with our staff, controlling, game planning and things like that. He's obviously swinging the bat better right now. So it's kind of an opportunity that's right in front of him. We're gonna give him every opportunity to be catching, 4 or 5 days a week and see what that looks like for him physically. It's a tough position for anyone, So opportunity for him to really say, okay, this is my job. And he's been a tandem for as long as he's been here with Jano. So let's see if you can go ahead and step it up and see, if you're a 5-day-a-week guy.
Why so careful with Yariel, and when do you think gloves off with him?
Probably pretty soon, gloves off. A lot of it just comes down to how he arrives at his pitch count throughout games, really, if he's in the zone or if he's picking. We wanted to build him up fairly slowly. The, outing in New York, 4 2/3, he was coming off and not getting out of the first inning against Baltimore. We're still really making sure that he's good in between each start. The routine part of it, being used to pitching on schedule, is something that he's still getting used to. And, I think gloves are kind of off at this point. He's done it. And as long as he continues to have an efficient pitch count, we got no problem letting him pitch. He can pitch. Yeah. And, kind of see with Bowden a little bit. Each one, you kind of let him go a little bit more and more. And, you're just watching how they're doing, seeing where they're locating pitches, what kind of stress the inning is, or how the innings are, and kind of go from there. But, for Yari, man, it's at that point to where let's see if you can get up to 90, 100 pitches.
Yeah, Bowden's been outstanding as well, as you mentioned. I'm sure you'd like to see Jake Bloss at the major league level. I mean, that's 5 capable major league starters you got right now. Is there any consideration of a 6-man rotation?
We'll see. I think for Jake to get up here, he's got an innings limit just because of, his age and how much he's thrown this year and the different levels he's been at. The kid's pitching in college last year. So I think if he were to get up, we want to see him, we want to see him and what he's about. And it's not just, we all know the talent. You can watch video and see what the guy's stuff is like. But I think the important thing is getting these guys here at some point and kind of seeing how they operate and getting to know the person, not just the player. So if he were to get up here, 6-man, not quite sure. It depends on how guys are doing. But, it's, I think certain guys need some rest too. And, we've lightly talked about a 6-man. There'll be a lot of things that have to fall in line.
Yeah, okay. I have to. Every time you come on, I got to ask you about the first baseman. Absolutely. Well, what has allowed him to control the zone at an elite level? And give me your definition of controlling the zone. What's that mean to you?
I mean, I think what's allowed him to do it is his mechanics are on time. He's in a position to hit every single pitch, and when you're doing that, you're recognizing pitches early. You feel confident and comfortable on the box. He is on the stretch that is really, really impressive right now. So for me, controlling the zone for Vladdy in particular, it comes down to being really, really stubborn on pitches in the middle. Pitchers are going to make mistakes, and he's obviously a guy that gets circled in our lineup every single night to be careful with. And I think when pitchers are trying to be a little bit too careful, you leave something right in the middle, So I think Vladdy is understanding that, and when he's getting those pitches, man, he's not really missing. If he's missing, maybe it's a little bit on top of it. It's still, a hard ground ball or a line drive, but he's being stubborn in the middle of the plate. And I think that's what great hitters do. It's not just, okay, I'm gonna take this ball on the edge and shoot it to right. He's doing that with 2 strikes if he needs to. So he's being really, really stubborn with his approach and just waiting for a mistake.
Now that we're asking, for specific lineup answers here, is David Schneider in the lineup tonight?
Yeah, you guys want to see it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Schneider's in there.
Okay.
Davis is in there tonight.
Okay, I was just going to – he got off to such a tremendous start to his major league career, and this season such a great start as well. Last couple of months have been it's been different than we've seen the rest of his major league career. What's happened the last couple of months for him?
It happens to young hitters. I think that, league pitched him very, very specifically last year at the top of the zone. And I think he's kind of caught in between right now with making that adjustment to try to cover that. And while doing that, he's probably missing out on some pitches that he should and usually does handle. So it's been a struggle for him, the last couple months. He understands that. And I think it's tough when you're probably chasing some hits, chasing some results. To just be stubborn with your approach and know what you're great at, so you can't cover the top and cover pitches moving away from you. So it's, I think he's just kind of in between, where he wants to swing. But, the best version of him is he's getting on base and he's doing damage. You know what I mean? So I think what we've seen is, not having either one of those consistently for the past couple weeks. And that's kind of where he's at. But he's working, and I think that, lefty tonight and Anderson gives him a pretty good shot to be stubborn on something down in the zone, and hopefully get it in the air.
Yeah, I think we forget sometimes hitting's really, really hard. It's never been harder. You got them smart people. It's hard. It's a tough thing. Absolutely. Barrios, culprit with giving up the home runs, and I've noticed he's using the sinker a little bit more this month. Why is that?
You look over the course of his career, it's been a really, really good pitch for him. I think when you look at damage, it's been on the breaking ball. There's been some just mislocated 4 seams. Sinkers are going to get hit hard too if they're not located. But I think when he's really good, it starts with his 2-seam. And if he's locating it to both sides of the plate, to righties and lefties, he can do whatever he wants with his breaking ball and changeup. That's just kind of how he's built. So. With that comes, there's going to be damage done on pitches in the middle. Just like we talk about it with Vlad, hitters are trying to do it to Hosey. So his bread and butter is a sinker. And when that's really, really located well, you don't have to be as fine with everything else. And his breaking ball is still, one of the best in the league.
Eric Swanson gives up the home run at the end of the game yesterday, but he's been so much better since he was called up. It's obviously been a wild season for him, starting with the family stuff in spring training. He was one of your most reliable relievers a season ago. How close is he to being back to what he was a season ago, or he was your 8th inning guy?
Yeah, he's looking better every outing. Yesterday I think he threw 4 splits in a row to Calhoun, and I'm just in the middle of the zone there for a homer. Command is better. Again, that's something we talked about when we sent him to Buffalo. It's just commanding his pitches. The walks are down, the strikeouts are back to kind of where they should be. So, like anything, man, confidence plays a part of it. He's feeling better about, what he's showing right now. And I think that just kind of continues to carry over, outing after outing. But when he's locating, we've seen him be really, really good and, pitch in really high leverage for us. So, like you said, weird year. You don't wish anyone, to start your year like that from a personal standpoint. And then to kind of go through some mechanical things on the field, it kind of took him a little bit of time to get his feet on the ground and reset. But I think his last 3 or 4, really, it kind of looked like the Swanee that we've known.
Okay, a couple more. I know you're busy. Before I let you go, Chad Green, how do you feel about him in the 9th inning, giving him the ball? And do you think graduation, it is like the top of the zone because of his size and the tunneling of that four-seamer's a really good pitch. But for me, you give him the ball a couple of tough lefties, John, he's going to need something to combat the lefty. The slider, I'm not so much sure of that. Is there any worry with that? Is there any talk about maybe you had a split finger? I don't know how hard that would be in season, but is there any talk? And what have you thought of him so far in the ninth inning?
Yeah, overall, him in the ninth, he's been great. He's been kind of that stabilizing force that we haven't had all year, So feel good about giving him the ball at any given point. And it's weird, he's been such an elite fastball at the top of the zone guy for the past 5 years. And hitters have definitely kind of caught up to that a little bit, not just him, but around the league. I think what's helping him right now is the slider. He's throwing it more and he's locating it fairly well. Me and Pete talked about it all the time. Is there a third pitch that goes along with Chad's fastball and slider? Yeah. And he was actually starting to throw a split as he was recovering from his injury last year when he was rehabbing. So it's something we may toy around with a little bit more as the season progresses and ends up here and have that conversation in the offseason. But I think what's made him really good is the slider. Again, as a two-pitch pitcher, you got to spot some stuff up too. His fastball still plays at a really high level, but if he were to add another pitch, it would be something like that, a split, and that would make him that much better. But love having him. This dude is about as steady as you get. You know what I mean? He is just a pro. He takes the ball every single day, about as low maintenance as you could ask for from a manager. So in terms of having him late in games, it's been awesome. Yeah,
last one, the catcher in you and now the manager in you. When you hear one of your pitchers and Chris Bassett come out and complain, I guess I can use complain about the roof being closed or open. What's the first thing you think of? And have you had conversations, with maybe the person that pushes the button when it comes to the roof when he makes his next start at home, saying that, East and West guys need that little swirl. They're going to need that little extra movement because one of our starters has been told, has told us that. Well, how's that been going, that conversation?
It's fine. I love Chris Bassett. And I love the fact that he is not afraid to speak what's on his mind, That's one of the things that makes him great and one of the things that makes him really, really unique. Now, I think his last handful of outings at home have been with the roof open, and you can see, probably not the common fan, but you can see what his pitchers are doing.
Swirls.
Compared, it's not just with him, it's with opposing pitchers and some other guys. So, hey, man, you're not going to be pitching in those conditions every time. You're going to be pitching in Southern California. You're going to be pitching in Tropicana Field. You know what I mean? So you can't control that stuff. But him and Pete especially, they had a good talk about it. And hey, there's some days you got to make some adjustments. But I love Chris's, how authentic he is. Mm-hmm. And every 5 days, it's kind of a treat to hear what he has to say.
He always gives you something to talk about, especially this show.
He definitely gives you something. Man.
He does.
He's a student of the game, you know what I mean? And he's at the point in his career where he's kind of done and seen everything, and he's got no problem sharing his opinion. But he does so much good here for this group too, just for these pitchers. He's really, really keen as to what's going on. So I think that's why you get some of the comments you get.
No question.
John, looking for the sweep tonight. Best of luck. Thanks for doing this. Buddy.
All right, guys. Good catching up.
See you later.
Appreciate it.
Good luck.
See you, John. John Schneider, Toronto Blue Jays manager. Yeah, nothing wrong with a guy telling you his truth, even though it may not make a ton of sense, and it may be problematic because there's probably more starts with the roof closed to come for Chris Bassett. But sure, I'm not going to rip a guy for being honest.
Yeah, that's one of the dumber things you ever hear a pitcher say out loud. But, I think if anybody could say it, it would be him, right? That, it's 18 and 13. And it is a thing. It is something that they actually think about, that if you started here, it should break this much. If it's swirling and that roof's open and it's, I've been told that, that's why offensive players don't like it in there with the way the ball doesn't carry when the wind's blowing a certain way, right? So you got one side of it that's happy because he can live at the top of the zone at 91. And when it ain't swirling and it's closed, now I got to locate and I got to be on point because I don't throw 95 plus. So, it is what it is. I just think it's funny. That's why I ask. You're going to get that from – I know Petey had the conversation because I asked, and I know John, I just asked that, has the conversation. So you're getting this sort of a funny way again. You just don't want to let it out of the – you don't want to let everybody understand what you're thinking. So now every fan that comes and watches Chris is thinking, man, I hope that roof's open.
Well, they'll be looking at the forecast.
Boy, what if next year we're in the playoffs, man, and they got the roof closed? Should he be pitching?
In the playoffs, they don't let him open it. Those national TV games for whatever reason.
Maybe you might want to think about him not pitching. So, there's a lot goes into that. And
who presses the button? Like, is there a guy? There's
absolutely.
one guy?
There's always a guy.
Dude, you don't know the guy?
I don't know him personally, no, but there's absolutely a guy.
Okay.
Yeah. In season, the guy does it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a certain amount of time because of the ice that's stuck on the roof. You don't want to tear the roof and that kind of thing. That's why you see it being pushed late. Mm-hmm. So April and May, most of the time, right, it's not open. And you're seeing it in the heat of the summertime, but there is an actual guy. Playoff time, that is Major League Baseball telling them one way or the other.
Yeah, and they never open it, no matter how beautiful an October day it is. So, boy, let's get ahead of this. Jays fans going to be upset. Will Wagner not in there tonight against the lefty after 5 hits in his first 2 games.
You saw the way he looked against the lefty last night?
Yeah. I also saw him. Didn't he face the same guy in this third at bat, too, and he hit it pretty hard to center field?
It's an out. You're trying to protect the guy, right, about the, just the approaches and the confidence. And you're also trying to see other guys. It's like, you got the lineup?
No. John was going to show us.
The only thing I care about is Vladdy better not be playing third. Or I'm ripping John.
We didn't ask. Well, he did say Will Wagner is going to play at least a couple of games at third base. He did mention that. No, we don't have a lineup yet.
So
we should have. Yeah, John was going to put the lineup
I tried to
there.
get him to say it, but
he was going to. He was reaching for it, and then we kind of moved on from it.
He joked. That thing could change. You don't want to back himself in the corner, right?
I
So
see, okay.
yeah. So it's and I wouldn't think the players are at the park yet. Most of them. So, somebody shows up and they got a broke fingernail. They can't play or whatever. So, look, it's, again, John is normally very good about what they're thinking, about how they're going about it. And, you should be happy about gloves off and, with the REL. Absolutely, right? I hate the word process. I think they're big leaguers. I think process is a silly word. It's an easy word to explain, lack of performance. And an easy way for him and an organization to sort of justify what they're doing is to say the word process. You're big league, you're paying these dudes a bunch of money. Hold them to a higher standard. Sometimes I don't think they do that. The low profito thing, that part scares me. Again, I said this to you, and I've said this before to people that want to listen, and I said this yesterday to Caleb. You can tell by his mannerisms that they're giving him things to think about, and he ain't buying into it a bunch. Like, you can tell just by the way when he gets out, I told you guys it wasn't going to work. I don't do that in Houston. Why are you making me do that now? I haven't dug enough into that, and I haven't asked enough people to know what that is, and it may not be an obvious change that you'd have to really hone in on, but there's a change. Yeah. And when you punch out as many times as he's punched out, and he's trying to make a team for next year, it's a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like a front office, if I see a dude do that, it's not even close to hitting a heater.
Well, that is process. That's process and results. You're not getting anything there. There's bad process because there's a bunch of strikeouts. There's not a lot of hard contact, and there is no results, snapping it 0 for 24.
Yeah, and John used a word. What was the word he used about what he's trying to do when he ain't playing? He used a word. Yeah. I can't remember, like he's working, whatever the word was that he said, that obviously he's got a program.
Yes.
He has a program that he is using when he's not starting. So that means you're seeing him try and work through certain things that they've given him. Can the dude hit a heater or not? Again, this gets back to that, man. You just overthink so many things that you almost talk a guy out of thinking that he's any good. You hit a daggum heater or not?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Here's the bat. Go show me. Put the iron mic in there. Hit it in the air to the pull side. Mm-hmm. Yes or no?
Yeah, he did it in Houston. Yep. He took the words out of my mouth. I
just don't understand that part of it. Now you're going to get him in there, and it's think long, think wrong. It is, as much as people hate to hear that because it is khaki world, that they try and simplify it. You think long, you think wrong. I get to thinking Davis Schneider, stand straight up and down, crouch over, all those things that he's thinking. Where's my hand starting? Instead of I got to see the ball, and I got to make sure it's down a little to put my ace swing on that ball and give myself a chance to be a big leaguer next year. And I better start annihilating lefties. If I'm not, why am I even on this team? I mean, it starts with guys like he's facing tonight who don't throw real hard, who's going to attack you in and change speeds away. I don't know. I don't have all the scouting reports, but I know exactly what's going to do to you. Mm-hmm. Get you one good to hit and hit that thing somewhere where they can't catch it.
Yep.
If you want to be a big leaguer and you're right-handed and you're not as good as we thought you were at consistently being a legit hitter, you better annihilate lefties. Like your OPS and slug better be in the five. You're slugging 500. It can't be in the 300s.
Yeah. He is running out of runway.
You'd think so.
But, yeah, one of those opportunities presents itself tonight because he's in the lineup because the manager just told us so. All right, Blue Jays and Angels tonight on Sportsnet 590 Fan. When we come back, we'll talk to Jeff Passan of ESPN. As Blair and Barker continues, Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair, Sportsnet 590 Fan at Sportsnet. All right, Blair and Barker, Sportsnet 590 Fan and Sportsnet. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair. Blue Jays Angels tonight. Hey, we're giving you the chance to win Blue Jays tickets all season long right here on Blair and Barker. All you have to do is text the correct answer to our daily baseball trivia question to 590-590. Of course, standard message and data rates may apply. Our last question and answer was this Angels player won a Silver Slugger award as a member of the Reds and Padres. It became a Blue Jay when Toronto traded away J-Happ in 2018. It was Brandon Drury. He's having a tough season this year. Today's question is to win tickets to see Jays Angels at Rogers Center on Friday, August 23rd. This is a good one. This Angel was traded to the Blue Jays in 2011, but never played a game for them. Later in his career, he found his way back to the AL East as a member of the Red Sox. Now, text the answer to 590 for your shot to win. See rules at sportsnet.ca/590. Standard message and data rates may apply. I know our next guest knows the answer to that. It is Jeff Passan. Don't say it, but yes.
You can say it if you want.
No,
go for it.
What? We were supposed to just give it away?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's no way he knows this.
Mike Napoli.
Yeah.
He did know it.
Yeah, of course he knew.
So you're my favorite Jeff.
Yeah. Well done, obviously.
Even though I'm like your 9th favorite Kevin, which is fine. It's okay.
All right.
Have I looked through the Kevins in my contacts while on the air with you before?
No, but you text me after I dropped that on you, saying that I was your favorite Jeff and I should be your favorite Kevin. And you said, and then you text me like 40 minutes later and gave me like 8 different choices that would be ahead of me.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even like top 10.
I have an unseemly amount of Kevins in my phone.
Who's the biggest name you got in your Rolodex on your phone? Biggest name.
Oh, yeah.
Biggest name?
Yeah, like a former president, like give us one. Biggest one.
It's one that I probably can't share.
Oh, wow.
It's not a, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I shouldn't publicly say it. I will say one of the coolest ones, may he rest in peace, but every time I pull up my contacts, the first one is David Aardsma.
Yeah.
And the second one is Hank Aaron.
Wow.
That's really cool. Yeah.
I'm jealous.
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Wow, now the mind is racing. It's who the person is that you can't even say their name. Like, like you're going to be dragged away.
Service.
That's what I was thinking. Or it's a cop-out that he doesn't want to answer. It's like it's a really good non-answer, too. Like, that's also a possibility. Who knows?
No, there's an answer. It could be someone in sports. It could be someone in politics. It could be someone in medicine. It could be some there are a lot of different possibilities.
You're a popular guy. Got lots of names. All right, maybe Yusei Kikuchi. maybe Yusei Kikuchi's in there. He's been unreal as a member of the Astros. Now he was pretty good for the Blue Jays, but his last 11 before he became an Astro weren't so good. Should the Blue Jays be taking note of whatever they've done to him in Houston?
Well, I think it's worth looking at the fact that Yusei Kikuchi, it's not like he wasn't striking anyone out when he was with the Jays, right? I mean, he still was averaging more than 10 strikeouts per 9. He's just ramped that up a little bit since he's gotten to Houston. And he's had 2 games against the Rays, who are a very strikeout-prone team, and another against the Rangers, who honestly haven't been hitting very well. So I'm not going to say that the Astros fixed him per se after just 3 starts, but it is definitely something worth keeping an eye on, because if you have a habit of sending a player away via trade or letting him go and then he goes somewhere else and gets better, that's an indictment on you and your ability not just to develop guys, but to get the best out of them, which is such a key part, right, of what organizations do. It's finding the best version of a guy and bringing that out. And if the Blue Jays aren't doing that, then that's a real problem.
Or get a lineup that scores more than 3 runs a game. How about that? Like, make it easier for him to go out there and pound the zone, not be afraid to give up a run. I mean, you've been around enough pitchers to know that that's a hard thing to do. Him going to Houston, man, he's looking at that lineup going, I never see anything like this. Like, I can give up a couple of runs in the first or second and still win here and have a good outing. Something else. Speaking of the Astros, I don't want to ask you if they're the best team in the American League because I sort of beat that to death. Every time I come on, it's the team changes. It could be the Astros right now. I do want to say, any chance that the Blue Jays would make a run with Bregman? Would that make sense, money-wise, if they could still go out and do other things?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, third base has been an issue for them for how many years now?
Yeah. Since Chapman left, too.
This isn't – yeah. Well, I guess that's true.
1 year.
Chapman was – yeah, Chapman was supposed to be the solution.
Yeah.
Don't know what you got till it's gone, though, Jeff. You know how that is.
Yeah. I agree, but I mean, before that, it's like when did Vlad last play third base in 2018 or 19?
Yeah, regularly.
I mean, it's been a while. Alex Bregman would fit wonderfully in this lineup, and I think with Bregman, you need to understand what you're getting, though. I do not think Alex Bregman is a superstar. I do not think he's going to be the guy who finishes up in MVP voting. Maybe he'll get a couple of down ballot votes every year, but he's not the guy who finished second back in 2019. Who he is somebody who does not strike out, who plays a very solid third base, and who's got some power, but he's not going to hit 40 home runs again. He's a really, really good player. I don't know if he's a great player, and he's going to want great player money.
Yeah. And Blue Jays, they got a little bit out of Matt Chapman. They were hoping to get a little bit more. Obviously, defensively, he was amazing. He can be a free agent again after what was a disappointing free agency for him and Blake Snell and a couple of different guys. Snell as well can be a free agent. Are those guys? Like, is this enough now for those guys to cash in this offseason?
I mean, one would think, like Chapman particularly, he's, the disconnect with Matt Chapman, it might be the greatest in all of baseball between his wins above replacement and the perception inside the game of what he's worth. Because if you look at Matt Chapman, even over the last 3 years and a couple of those that he spent in Toronto, he was still like a 3-4 win player every year. And if you're valuing a win above replacement at, $8, $9, $10 million, then the guy goes out there and gets $18 million a year for 3 years. It's huge potential surplus value. And this year it could be even bigger. I mean, he's having a season this year a lot like his 2019 season where he was a 7-win player. The power isn't quite the same as that year, but the glove is just extraordinary. And you guys have seen that, and he's 25% better offensively than the average player. So I think Matt Chapman will opt out, and I think he will have a solid market, and I think he's going to get paid a lot more this winter than he did last.
Which one should I believe more, the Padres 18-4 or the Diamondbacks 19-5 record since the All-Star break?
I mean, can I say both?
You sure can.
Like, I mean, listen, Ben, if you want to talk about cop-out, that's a cop-out answer right there. But it's like,
can't they both be cop-outs?
This is some 4D mind chess right here. I like this. I look at the Diamondbacks offense, and it is relentless. And that's even like with Ketel Marte out right now. You put him back in the lineup, and I think he's second in MVP voting to Shohei Ohtani in the National League at this point. And you're getting great years from Jake McCarthy and from Jock Peterson, all the way up and down that lineup. They are dangerous bats. And I think they have enough pitching. I think they stabilized their bullpen at the deadline. And Justin Martinez coming forward the way he has this year has been enormous for them. On the other hand, you look at the Padres, they're doing this without Fernando Tatis Jr.
Yeah.
And Manny Machado has been awesome. And Jerkson Profar all season has just been relentless at the plate. And they're pitching on top of that. I mean, they've gotten really good offensive contributions from everyone. Jackson Merrill, I don't know how much of him you've seen. Yeah. He's so much fun to watch. He is such a good baseball player. And then their bullpen, you can argue that their bullpen is the best in baseball with Robert Suarez and Jeremiah Estrada and Adrian Morejon, and then going out at the deadline and adding Jason Adam and Tanner Scott. I mean, they have done a great job, I think, of making up for the lack of starting pitching that they have.
Yeah, and Michael King's been good for them, too. He was good yesterday. He's made 23 starts. He got an ERA just over 3. I mean, the other side of the Michael King trade, as we all refer to it as, Juan Soto hit 3 home runs yesterday for the Yankees, and boy, I mean, I guess he's not going to make $700 million that Shohei Ohtani earned last offseason. Like, how close is he going to get, though, Jeff?
I think you can make a really good argument that he should get 500.
Yeah.
Especially when it's going to be Yankees versus Mets, which is such a fascinating thing to me. Because the Yankees and Mets generally do not go after the same free agents, but how can you not? Guys, Juan Soto is 25 years old. Like, I think that's the part that people forget about this. He is 25 years old, and he's approaching 200 home runs and is likely to hit them. He's got an on-base percentage this year over 430, and for his career over 420. He's slugging over 600 this year, and for his career is at 540. I mean, it's difficult to look at him and say that he's anything short of the best hitter we've seen reach free agency in a generation. And when you have all of those things and the fact that he's done it in New York and proven that this place that has consumed so many is actually a breeding ground for his success, I mean, everything is lining up for him to not just break the bank, but own the damn thing.
Yeah. Okay, I got a one about the World Series. Which team or organization has the most pressure on them to win the World Series, Phillies or Yankees?
Ooh, that is a good question, Kevin.
Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, I'll give you a good one. Because the Phillies stink now, all of a sudden.
Well, that's you know, that's baseball. That happens. I mean, the Phillies last won in 2008. The Yankees last won in 2009. The Phillies have been back to the World Series more recently, but lost a couple of years ago and lost in the NLCS last year, whereas the Yankees didn't make the postseason last year and haven't been to a World Series in a while now. I would say probably – oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
I would say probably the Phillies.
Really?
It's really a question. I just feel like the Phillies are a better team. I know they're struggling recently, but I think at the end of the day, if you go through the rosters and you ask me what's a better team, I'm going to say that the Phillies are.
Yeah,
so I think because of that, the Phillies. But you can argue that if the Yankees bomb out early in the playoffs this year, again, the questions about Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone are going to start up, even though the Yankees remember, they had a swoon like the one the Phillies are going through right now, and they righted the ship. And I am A-okay with a team going on a losing binge like this, as long as they get their stuff straight by September. You've gotten it out of your system. Now it's time to really lock in.
Only reason I disagree with that is because if you have Soto and then the other New York team gets Soto and you go win the World Series, it's the Yankees.
a very fair
It's like
point.
you lost, and I just slapped you in the face because I got more money than you. It's like, stay hot, Jeff, you know? Yeah.
I may have the wrong answer on that. That's a very compelling point.
Yeah.
If you don't go deep in the playoffs and
win it.
Yeah. And whatever it takes to get Juan Soto the offseason, that would be what the Yankees have to do there. The defending World Series champions now have a worse record than the Toronto Blue Jays in 2024, Jeff. And flags fly forever. It doesn't matter. They only had 90 wins last year, and that was the only winning season in 8 for them, and all the money they spent on Semien and Seager. But how is that? And who knows? Maybe they bounce back with, maybe Jacob deGrom could be healthy next year. Who knows? But how will that World Series look in retrospect if it was just like one flash in the pan and then all of a sudden it's, they're back into the doldrums? Is that possible for the Rangers?
Honestly, man, I don't care. Like, I don't care if it's 1 year out of however many you want to say. If you win a ring, you won a ring. And that's better than 20, not just 29 other teams can say that particular year, but a vast majority of teams can say over a 10 and 20 year period, right? I think any organization would be glad to sacrifice the next season on the altar if that's what it took to win in the prior season. And that's where the Rangers are right now. It's disappointing. It's really surprising because when you looked at their lineup, you were like, they're set. They're set for a while now. And there was always some question about this team because it was relying on pitching that was going to be coming back in June and July and August in Tyler Mahle and Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer. And anytime you're expecting guys to come back from injuries that have kept them out the first 4 months of the season, and, knowing that the greatest predictor of a future arm injury is a past arm injury, then, hey, there's risk involved in that. But to see them collapse the way they have, especially offensively this year, where a number of players in their lineup are down in OPS by 150 points year over year, it's pretty alarming. And they have some work to do because they're going to be losing pitching this offseason. Scherzer's a free agent. Nathan Eovaldi is going to be a free agent. Andrew Heaney's a free agent. And while they're going to get deGrom back, which is great, and while they have Mahle as well, and while Kumar Rocker, a blast from the past, looks awesome in the minor league. Like, he looks really good in the minor leagues right now. So he could be a potential rotation guy. And Cody Bradford, like, they've got some guys, but they're going to need to do some work in free agency. And let me tell you, man, they should have done some more this offseason, but because of the RSN issue and because of questions about their television contract going forward, they may not have a lot of money. And you can do what the Royals did, and you can find guys like Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha and sign them to shorter-term deals at a little higher AAV and build the pitching staff that way. But you've got to hit on those, because if you don't, you could be in trouble.
Yeah, maybe they need to build a new stadium. It's been like 5 years or whatever, so I don't know. All right, Jeff, we're going to spend the next 5 minutes trying to guess who that guy is on your phone.
I think
guy
I
or
know.
gal?
I think I know.
All right,
but...
all right, okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
See you, Jeff.
Wait, are you not doing this on air?
Oh, no,
I can't. You said we can't say his name out loud.
Yeah, we don't want you to be taken away.
You can say it.
Oh,
like,
my friend, you know, honestly, who the first person I thought of whenever you said that was? That I just saw him got shot. He got shot in the ear.
See, I thought there was more baseball connection. I thought it was as George W.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do not have a former president in my phone.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. No, I have no idea. I mean, you know so many people. You've been to so many places when it matters, like the World Series is, and there's so many really big-time names. We have no idea. We got to guess forever.
Yeah. We won't, though.
Maybe it's a music star. Maybe it's a music star.
Yeah, maybe.
Might be.
You're going to give zero hints, are you? Could be could be an astronaut.
Okay.
All right.
Could be a technology entrepreneur.
Oh, wow.
An astronaut. Could be any of the above.
Man.
All right. This is great radio.
All right.
See you, Jeff.
See you, buddy.
See you, boys.
See you.
Jeff Passan, ESPN.
No idea now.
Who's the most famous person in your phone? Don't be like that.
Hazel May.
That's what an answer. All time, man. It's like it's not the first time you've been asked that question or something. Yeah, flags fly forever when it comes to the Rangers. Boy, that's tough though to have the 1 year where it all comes together, and it only just barely came together for them. Remember that
they got lucky.
4-game series in Toronto last year in September where they mopped the floor with the Blue Jays. They finished with one more win than the Jays did during the regular season last year and then ran all the way into the World Series. They had the worst bullpen in the history of the sport to win the World Series. Yeah.
They had one dude who got hot in the pen, and Boch abused him to get him through the World Series against the Diamondbacks. Like that's the other part of it is they got super lucky that it wasn't the Phillies and it was the Diamondbacks. If it's the Phillies, it's a different story. Yeah. So, yeah, look, it's intriguing to talk that out. Listen to Jeff talk about who's got more pressure, the Yankees or the Phillies. I still think it's the Yankees.
It's always the Yankees.
No, it ain't.
Oh, it almost always. I mean, the Dodgers, if you put the Dodgers in there, I might have said the Dodgers because they just spent $700 million on Shohei.
So what? I mean, they made that up the first, second week of the season. They were in the green already.
Okay. And that they have that 2020 World Series. Do you think that also is,
it's a COVID year.
Equity in their back pocket? Yeah, I think it's the Yankees. When you've got your second best player who's going to be number 2 maybe in the American League MVP voting, Bobby Witt Jr. I mean, Aaron Judge and Juan Soto probably split the vote, but he's a free agent. This is
split what vote?
The MVP vote.
No, there's one MVP. Yeah, no, they might be splitting the vote for second.
Okay, yeah, whatever.
Get crazy.
Anyways, he's arguably the second best hitter in the American League. Juan Soto. You got guaranteed one more year of him. I mean, this is the year.
Second best hitter. Second best player is that dude who plays shortstop for Kansas City.
Yeah, I said second best hitter.
No, you said player. This is my point when I said earlier about the $500 million giving it to a guy who's supposed to be all around your best player. Yeah. Soto is not a great defender. He's not a great base runner. He doesn't have a great arm.
He's capable. He can play a corner outfield spot.
Catch the ball right at him, hit the cutoff guy. But you're giving him $500 million.
Yeah, I am. I'm giving it to him as if that's what it took. And if you're the Yankees and you don't win a World Series, you don't go deep in the postseason, and you're going toe-to-toe with your New York rivals.
I don't think they're gonna.
Well, I got to tell you, if they're not, boy, there'd be some questions. I'm sure the PA would have some questions about that.
More pressure if they win it or lose it to sign him.
I think there's more pressure if they lose it. If they win him, like flags fly forever.
See, that's not for me. I can say if I lose it, well, I had him and you saw the outcome. Why would I give him 8 or 10 more years at $550 a year when we could lose? I could go lose the World Series without him.
I guess it depends on how it goes, right? If you lose it because
it'd be easy to sell it.
Well, what if he has an incredible postseason? What if he's the reason you're in a World Series? Him and Aaron Judge, and you don't have enough relief pitching.
He's a fact going to be.
Oh, it's not going to be Austin Wells?
No, yeah.
It's not going to be Gleyber Torres in a walk year? It's not going to be Anthony Rizzo coming back? Yeah. You sure? It's not going to be Trent Grisham? All right. Maybe not. Anyways.
They got a lot of who's in that lineup.
Yeah. Blue Jays are done with the Yankees this season, by the way. No more series remain between those two. Yankees and Orioles, one more series between those two. But Blue Jays have one more game.
Why not sweep them?
On the road in Anaheim before.
Hard to sweep a team on the road.
The Angels at home.
No matter how bad that team is.
Yep. It is Jose Barrios on the mound, 9:30 tonight, Eastern Time, Sportsnet.
Good job, Ben.
Thanks, buddy. It's been my pleasure to be with you. Jeff is back next week. Blair and Barker, Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet.